Ladies and gentlemen, it is me, Narlin, and we're here with another Skull and Bones video. Now stick around because this is going to be controversial, alright? Because today we are going to talk about what the best DPS ship is. So, what I like to do in these videos, as you probably know if you're a regular watcher, is I do like to start off with a little bit of combat because combat's just so much fun, isn't it? So we're just going to beat the hell out of these ships for the moment. And we can see the schooner at work. So the schooner is one of the ships we're going to look at today. We're going to look at two ships in particular. Because we're talking about DPS ships, okay? We're not talking about the frigate. We're not talking about tanks. We are purely talking about DPS, alright? So, without further ado, we are going to head back to look Pinjara, and we're going to have a closer look at these two ships, alright? We are getting chased, but we're not too worried about that. Now, how good is it to be back in the schooner? I don't know if you guys are schooner fans, but this ship I was enjoying quite a lot before I got my frigate, and it is a superb ship. It's not as quick as our Brigantine, and it's got a different sail setup. It's not a square-rigged sail setup, alright? So it's not as quick, but it does pack a hell of a punch on the broadside. So let's go and have a look at this particular ship, because this is one of our candidates for the best ship in Skull and Bones as a DPS. Remember, we're talking about DPS, we're not talking about tanks, which is what the frigate is, because realistically, if I'm going to be honest, I'm probably going to say that I like the frigate the most out of all the ships. But that's a really hard scale, because the frigate is the first large ship in the game. It is a tank, and we've got nothing to compare it against. So we're looking at medium ships today, alright? So let's go and have a look at my ship here. We'll just repair it. Actually, we're going to go over to the shipwright, and we're going to have a wee look at the ships from here. Okay.
Seems like your work here is making them sharper.
So the reason I've gone here is because we can actually have a look at the info on the ship pretty easily. Alright, so we'll just get rid of this. So, alright, so let's have a look at the schooner. So this excels in devastating broadside attacks, okay, turning every barrage into an explosive reaction. Now, broadsides are the best form of attack. Now, everyone should know this by now. The broadside attack is huge, okay? So this ship type's a DPS. It has the perk is Fury, so increases damage to structures by 50% and increases weak point damage taken by 30% for 10 seconds. Weapon hits have 20% chance to trigger Fury on self for 15 seconds, boosting broadside weapon damage by 20% while active. Broadside hits can trigger a 700 damaging explosion every 3 seconds within a 100 meter blast radius. So this is quite a good perk. Now, the thing here is that it's a very good perk against structures, alright? So if we're looking at what, this would be a better perk if it was against ships, okay? So straight up, that would be better if it was against ships. Now, let's have a look at some of the other stats here. So, hull health, 36,000. Brace strength, speed and trim speed. So, let's have a look at the trim speed, 16 knots. It's got a 50,000 weight limit as well. Okay? So, that's probably all we need to look at with the schooner. It's a very, very good ship. So, we're going to go and have a look at the next ship, which is going to be the Garuda, okay? Now, the Garuda is a DPS, and it devastates enemies from afar, okay? So this is your sharpshooter type of ship, all right? So Deadeye perk, weapon damage is increased based on how far away you are from the target, capped at 60% when your hull health is 40% or lower, increases armor by 500, and trimming no longer costs crew stamina for 10 seconds. This effect has a cooldown of 40 seconds. So this ship is designed for for basically being at distance from your enemies, okay? It's not designed for that close-in play. It is really, as it says, it is a sharpshooter. So it's basically a sniper ship, okay? Now, that doesn't appeal to me, but it might appeal to some other people. Now, let's have a look at some of the other basic stats here. So, hull health, 32,000, less than the schooner. Trim speed, less than the schooner at 14 knots, okay? Weight limit, less than the schooner as well, okay? So you can see that it's a medium ship, but it is smaller than your schooner, and it is smaller than your Brigantine as well, okay? Now, we're not going to have a look at, we can have a look at the Sambuk, and we will have a look at this. We're not going to have a look at some of the other ships, because there's only really 4 contestants in my mind. Now, if you disagree with me, by all means, please throw something in the comments. But we're really looking at the Sambuk, the schooner, the Garuda, and the Brigantine for our contestants here, okay? So, look, I absolutely acknowledge there are some other DPS ships there that people might like, but these are my 4 contestants for the best DPS. So, next...
Got any good battle stories? I am all ears.
Let's have a look at the Sambuk. So this one here, we know that this is a fire ship. Okay, so DPS specializing in dealing damage and status effects. The DPS favors an aggressive style gameplay. That's what a DPS. The synopsis is for a DPS. The perk deals 5,000 burning damage when you apply a blaze effect to an enemy ship. A blaze will be applied to enemies within a radius of 150 meters, increases damage to ships with a blaze effect by 30%. This thing is massive if you light an enemy ship on fire, okay? So the Sambuk is purely a fire ship. That's what it's good at. Now, we know the downside to a fire ship is that generally speaking, it's not a ranged ship, all right? So it's good at close range, not good at distance, okay? Let's have a look at some of the other stats. Hull health, 35,000. Brace strength, 7,000. Trim speed, 14 knots. Again, not quite as good as the schooner, okay? The weight limit on this is better than the schooner, so 70,000, okay? You can handle more weight on this thing, which is quite handy, okay? That's pretty much all we're looking at there. So, in some respects, it is better or on par with the schooner. The speed is not as good, okay? And remember, it is only really a fire ship, okay? So that's its specialty. Now, the Brigantine. This is huge because everyone loves their Brigantine, okay? The Brigantine the Brigantine is the ship in the game that I've used the most. And I would say for a lot of people who have been playing this game for over a year, you've probably used the Brigantine quite a bit. Okay, this is the gold standard of ships in Skull and Bones. This is a ship that I've loved to play with, right? Now, this is a ramming ship, so it excels in dealing flooding damage, and when you ram an enemy ship, okay, it can do some really good damage. And the other thing with the Brigantine as well is that you can actually apply some really, really good perks to the ramming to make it more effective and also heal your ship. Alright, so let's have a look at the perks. Increased damage from ramming by 45% and gains additional speed while pursuing an enemy ship within 300 meters. Increases flooding weapon damage by 20% and deals 20% more weapon damage to flooded targets. Okay, great for a flooded ship. Right, hull health, it is pretty good. 40,000, okay, so it's not too bad. The weight limit's 45,000, which is less, and we would expect that, being that a Brigantine tends to be a smaller type of ship. The big thing, the big draw card for the Brigantine is its speed. It is the fastest ship in the game at 20 knots. We all know this. This thing goes like lightning. And I've said this in previous videos, but at 20 knots, this is a little bit of a history lesson for you guys. At 20 knots, that is basically the cruising speed of something like the Titanic. All right. So in real life, there's no way these ships would be doing this kind of knottage. There are ships. For example, the the ship that rescued the people from the Titanic, the Carpathia, its maximum speed was about 15 knots, okay? And that was when the thing was going flat stick to try and catch up to the Titanic when it was sinking. So, in all reality, ships of this day and age would not be doing 20 knots, but the Brigantine can do this in game, and it is the fastest ship. So that's one of the reasons why we like it so much. All right. So we're going to go back to the schooner. Right. So the schooner weight limit. We're just going to have a look at this weight limit. So weight limit is more. Hull health is slightly less than the Brigantine. Okay. I am going to eliminate the Sambuk and the Garuda from our little list here, purely because they're way too specialised. Okay, the Garuda, fire ship, you've got to be close range. The Garuda is a sharpshooter, you've got to be at long range really to gain the benefits. Whereas the schooner, you've got a really good broadside attack, and the Brigantine, you've got the ramming, plus you've got the speed. All right, now, what would you expect me to say is the best ship? Now, we're going to go have a look at my Brigantine. Now, that's my schooner. Now, we're going to go to my fleet. Where is my Brigantine? There it is. All right. We'll move all the cargo over so we can activate this as my primary ship. Right. So, we're just going to have a quick little sail here. Just because we want to have a look at the lines of the ship. Now, I realise you guys that are still watching this video, I know that you've already looked at this Brigantine 1,000 times, but what I really want to show you here is how... Oh, geez, this thing is so quick, isn't it? Alright, so what I really want to show you is the square rigging, right? So the square rigging is, in my opinion, I think square rigging is the most beautiful rigging that you can get on a ship. The thing I don't like about the square rigging on the Brigantine is that you've got these little side rigs here. We're just going to drop my sails again so you can see it. These little side bits on the square rigging. I think that's a little bit ugly, but overall it's a beautiful looking ship. We know it goes really, really fast, okay? This you would expect to be my preferred DPS ship in the game. Here's the controversial part, guys. I actually think that the schooner is a better ship. Wait, you might be saying, Narlan, you are nuts. The schooner is not as good as the Brigantine. The schooner is as good as the Brigantine, if not better, and because it can it can handle a lot more, right? So we're going to have a look at, we're going to go back to my schooner, wherever it is, there it is. All right, so let's have a look at the schooner. Now look at the hull health and look at the weight limit. All right, we've got some greens there. The speed is less, yes, but we've got some greens there on the hull health, right? The only downside, right, with the schooner, in my eyes, besides the fact that it's not as fast as the Brigantine, right? The only downside in my eyes is that the schooner is not a square rig ship. All right, I don't necessarily like the fact that these side sail riggings, right? I can't say I'm a huge fan of them because I just don't think it looks as good as the Brigantine. But here's the big but, right? The schooner can deal more damage with the broadside, which appeals to me, and it can also handle a little bit more in the way of the hull health and cargo capacity as well. So for that reason alone, well, I think that the true kicker for me is the fact that it has this really, really powerful broadside. So if we're looking at DPS ships, I am going to say that the schooner is better than the Brigantine. Alright, that is my big call on on today's video. All right, so I'd love to get your comments I'd love to get your feedback in the comments section. All right, please by all means let me know what you think about this. If there's another DPS ship that you like, by all means let me know. We're not talking about the frigate because the frigate is technically a tank, and I want to sort of stay away from the frigate today because it is a large ship as well. So we're not comparing apples for apples if we're looking at the frigate. All right. So let me know in the comments. Now, I realise that I haven't done a video all week this week, and unfortunately, my personal life is getting in the way of doing Skull and Bones videos. So stick around because I will get videos out as soon as I can possibly get some free time to do them. Unfortunately, I'm going to be away at a wedding this week, and not only that, there's more going on in my personal life, which means that unfortunately I can't throw out videos every couple of days at the moment, but stick with me because I will continue to get these videos out as soon as I can. Hope you've enjoyed this one. If you've liked it, if you've stuck around this long, if you're not already subscribed, please like and subscribe this video, and I'll see you on the next one.